Welcome to the program, folks. It is Johnny Cash Friday. In the interest of time, let's get right to our interview from earlier today. Big news from Congressman Bruce Westerman. Congressman Bruce Westerman is with us. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Paul. I always enjoy getting a chance to catch up and visit with you.
Man, I know it's been a huge news day. I've got a photo of you on Twitter with Sarah Huckabee, which I'm assuming that's the White House in the background. You were at the White House today.
Yeah, that was right outside the Oval Office before we went in and met with the president to talk about health care.
Well, how did the meeting go? Because I know that yesterday you voted for the Obamacare repeal replacement bill. I know also your colleague Congressman Womack did as well. But I know this meeting today, what was this about? Was this about trying to make this law more conservative?
Oh, yeah. And, last week the bill came out. It went through the Ways and Means and the Energy and Commerce Committee with no changes to it. And there were a lot of us that had a lot of problems with the bill in its current form. And I had whipped on the bill that I was not going to vote for it in its current form, but also, I believe if you're going to not support something, you need to be working for a way to make it better. So lots and lots of hours of work, not just last week, but ideas that we've been working on for quite some time, getting those ideas presented. And the major hang-up for me was not having the block grant option for states in the bill. And it looked pretty bleak at times about us going to be able to get that in there, but we were very persistent. And President Trump says he loves the block grant, and he's 100% behind that. And we're going to get it in the bill. We got leadership in the House convinced that it's a good thing, and the president likes it. And I think this could be a huge transformative process for Medicaid. People are worried about the Medicaid expansion.
I just want to say that is huge news that you just heard there, folks. Is that Donald Trump and it looks like they're going to put block grants in. This is something that conservatives have wanted for a very long time. And Congressman Westerman, you mentioned Medicaid expansion, and if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a little bit of opportunity to play for our audience what you said yesterday in that committee about Medicaid expansion. It sounded like this.
A study by the Urban Institute put forward data saying that 82% that would be newly eligible for Medicaid under Obamacare would not have a child in the household. Not only that, but of that 82%, 69% would be men and women aged 19 to 44, what many would concede as the best working years of a person's life. Under Obamacare, through enhanced match rates, Medicaid expansion states have seen federal Medicaid dollars increased for working-aged, able-bodied adults anywhere from 133% to 200% more than the funding for those who qualified for Medicaid prior to Obamacare, including seniors and individuals with disabilities. The gentlelady talked about my home state of Arkansas. My state took the Medicaid expansion. One of the many families affected by the neglect of the traditional Medicaid program in my state is the family of Ms. Skylar Overman. Skylar was born with a rare medical neurological condition. In a 2016 news report, Lindsay Overman, Skylar's mother, said that she feared her daughter won't live long enough to receive the assistance she has been waiting on nearly her entire life. Madam Chairman, I find it appalling that the needs of the truly needy in this nation are being ignored to protect a political legacy. I believe it is well past time that we as leaders stand together and say no more. It is time that we return the Medicaid program back to the purpose for which it was created, and that is to help the elderly and disabled.
We're joined again back with Congressman Bruce Westerman. That was him yesterday. Congressman, very well said, and that was an edited clip. It was actually a 9-minute clip, but I edited it down to about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Sir, just respond to that.
Yeah, it's course, we were debating the health care issue in the budget committee yesterday, and through that budget committee is where we were able to, I think, affect a lot of these changes. Todd Rokita from Indiana and Gary Palmer from Alabama and I have been working nonstop on the block grant issue, and even visited with folks in Maine, and we got Governor LePage to send a letter saying that he would take the block grants that they were offered, and Governor Hutchinson stepped up and helped us out tremendously by sending a letter in saying that he preferred the block grant. So kudos to him and his staff. And those letters made a huge difference in getting leadership's attention that we wanted the block grant option. I was actually told that was the turning point when we were able to get the letters from the governors and our persistence on the block grant.
That's very interesting because you've got LePage in Maine. That's a state that didn't expand Medicaid under Obamacare. And then you have Governor Hutchinson in Arkansas. We are a state that did take the Medicaid bait, as I will call it. So what kind of, I guess the question is, do we know when we talk about block grants, do we know if we're talking about block granting the money that covers the expanded population, all of it today? Because Arkansas's population has obviously ballooned to like 340,000. Or are we,
right.
What are your thoughts on the amount of money that we're talking about here?
Yeah, the formula is really tricky on it, and I actually worked on several formulas. I thought I had a great formula if you had only block grants, but with block grants being an option, and again, you've got to look at this whole process that we're doing it through budget reconciliation. So you have certain criteria that you have to meet in budget reconciliation. The final language on the block grant option is still being worked on, but the premise behind it is the block grant has to be less than or equal than the amount of the per capita cap, which is the base program in the bill right now. That's the other option. You got option the per capita cap or block grant, which the per capita cap is a huge improvement over traditional Medicaid. It just doesn't give the states the amount of flexibility that the block grant gives them.
Okay.
So, was great to have Governor LePage from a non-expansion state, Governor Hutchinson from an expansion state, and both of them recognize the benefits of a block grant.
And I completely agree. I guess, you mentioned in your comments there the able to work adults, and you're putting out those statistics, and these are the prime working years of your life, and that's obviously a debate that every state's going to have, whether or not we're going to support welfare for able to work adults. I guess my question is, so like if we go with the block grant, if Arkansas goes with the block grant, which I suspect that we will, does that mean that able to work adults could possibly not be covered anymore?
That will be up to the state legislature, because the funding will be fixed, and what it will do is allow the state to define who the beneficiaries are in their program. If they want to cover people up to 17% of the poverty level like it was before Obamacare, if they want to cover them at 50%, or if the state wants to take a block grant and cover it 500%, they've got to do it with that fixed amount of money. And if they go over the what the services they can provide with that money, then that comes out of state revenue. So it's going to force states to be more fiscally responsible when they take the block grant. There's crazy stuff in Medicaid programs, and we've got it in Arkansas because of the way the traditional Medicaid program was set up. You get things like provider taxes that make absolutely no sense unless you're viewing Medicaid as economic development from the federal government. What a provider tax does is the state sets up the tax. It's a state tax on Medicaid services, so the tax is paid with Medicaid dollars, and it's all it's really a scheme to put $1 of state money in, and you get in Arkansas you get $2.37 of federal money back. So the more money a state spends on Medicaid right now, the more match rate that comes from the federal government, and it's an endless pit of money the way it's viewed from the state. Well, this caps the growth and caps the funding, and states are going to have to start doing things that are more fiscally responsible if they take a block grant, which I think states would like to do that.
I agree.
They've got the flexibility to do it.
When we say block grant, are we talking about a block grant for the whole thing, for just Medicaid in general? And if that includes expansion, so be it. That's up to the states. Or are we just talking about a block grant for the expanded population?
No, it's the whole population. It's the federal expenditures on Medicaid will be in a block grant to the state. The state defines, operates, and manages their Medicaid program, and it's real flexibility and responsibility to the state. And you look at what states have been able to do with waivers, which a waiver is kind of like a mini little block grant. It's still in the same funding formula, but it gives the states flexibility. And the state of Rhode Island had a global waiver at one point, and they were able to provide measurable, better health outcomes for their population. They had a 5-year, $12 billion block grant, and they ended up $3 billion under the $12 billion cap, and at the same time provided better services. It allows you to target populations that need a specific service without having to offer that service to every population. They've done some stuff in Maine with medical homes that allow people to go to avoid going to the emergency room. Even if you wanted to design a plan like the private option or Arkansas Works, one of my main hang-ups with that problem was it had to do everything that Medicaid does. So you had no co-pays, no deductibles, no premiums. But if the state wants to establish a program like that and say, guess what, you can have this, but now you got to pay a little bit of your premium. You got to pay part of your co-pay. You've got a deductible here. And it requires people to have skin in the game and think about their decisions before they use it. And by doing that, you still give people great health care opportunities, and you lower the cost significantly. It will allow the states to design the medical services and plans in a way that best fits the state. So I'm excited about the opportunities with the block grant, and I hope a lot of states take it. I think Florida will take it. I've visited with Governor Scott from Florida, and I think Kentucky, which is another expansion state, will be looking strong at the block grant program.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then other things, like if you want to put work requirements on able-bodied adults that you're covering, you can put those in there because you've got the flexibility to do it, and you don't have to come begging to Washington for permission to do something.
Yeah, that is certainly, and that's been the problem the whole time. And at the same time, with this freedom, our local politicians down at the Arkansas legislature, I mean, we can now actually have the principled argument about whether a government program disincentivizes or incentivizes the right kind of behavior. And so, I mean, that sounds good. Folks, this is breaking news, and I appreciate Congressman Westerman coming on the program, I'm told this is the first interview you're doing after this, meeting with the White House, this announcement about the block grants. Tell me, what was it like meeting the president?
Well, I had met him before a few times, but to actually walk in the Oval Office and, be standing there visiting with the President of the United States and standing by his desk and taking a picture, it's a pretty special moment. My friend Gary Palmer from Alabama, he says his parents had an 8th grade education. He grew up in a house that you could see the ground through the cracks in the floor, and the fact that he could be now sitting in the Oval Office with the president is
pretty wild.
A great commentary on the opportunities that are in America.
We're talking with Congressman Bruce Westerman, and again, the breaking news here is this announcement of block grants to the states that apparently The House leadership's on board with, the president's on board with. So last week we interviewed your colleague, Congressman Rick Crawford, and he was very cautious and skeptical of the bill as it was, as you were. You mentioned that earlier. Senator Tom Cotton came out and really cautioned the House, hey, you guys have got to get this right. I would imagine this is maybe still not going to placate everybody, and I haven't really been following this as closely as I should have because I've been preoccupied with the state house. But I guess the question is now, does this satisfy enough people who were skeptical of the initial plan? Does this satisfy them, and do you get the amount of votes in the House to send this on to the Senate? What's your prediction on that, Congressman Westerman?
Yeah, Paul, there are still tweaks I would like to make to the bill. The way the tax credits are set up in the bill, I think are going to cause problems with implementation because they're flat tax credits that are age adjusted, and the premise behind that is really rational, and it comes from this: if we buy insurance through a group plan. Any American that buys insurance through a group plan they're able to do that with pre-tax dollars. So we get a deduction on our insurance premium because we're paying with pre-tax dollars. If you buy insurance from an individual market, you don't have that same opportunity. You have to pay your premiums with after-tax dollars. So there's not parity there for people who are buying in a group plan versus people buying in the individual market. If you say, okay, we're going to give a deduction to everyone, so we'll have parity. When you get down into very low-income individuals, their yearly taxes aren't enough that a deduction does them any good. So the idea of the tax credit is that you give lower-income people the same treatment as higher-income people are getting who are buying their own health care. My problem is the way the tax credit's set up is it's an age-adjusted flat credit, and then the way the formula works, you could be a family of four, I think, with a $290,000 income, and you're still getting a bit of a tax credit, which a credit is a direct refund to the individual for a full amount. I think if we could tweak this and make it a deduction after a certain income level, so that you got an equal playing field with people who are in group plans and wealthier individuals. That also takes care of the Cadillac tax, which has been a contentious issue, and you can create a very smooth transition curve from when you're on Medicaid to where you go to a tax credit program to help pay for insurance, and just getting the normal tax deduction that anybody purchasing out of a group plan. There's tweaks like that. I think the Senate will take a run at this and make some changes in it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And what complicates the whole thing is you've still got these budget rules and this reconciliation process that puts constraints around what you can do. There's a lot of other health care policy that needs to be changed that you can't get into budget reconciliation.
Yeah. Well, and
this will absolutely be the largest entitlement reform since we've known of entitlement.
Well, I know you got to catch a flight, but I do have one more question because this may or may not be a thing that can happen within the reconciliation process. But I mean, bottom line is, a lot of people want their premiums to go back to where they were so they can actually afford health care. So, I mean, how confident are you that we're going to get to that spot or get to that place with this piece of legislation?
I think getting these tax credits right will play into that. I view this legislation as fixing Medicaid more than it will the private insurance market. It does repeal all of the taxes and penalties in Obamacare. The things that are really going to help set the insurance market free are the things that require the policy votes. And some senators are arguing we can get more in reconciliation. I say go for it.
Yeah.
If we get the bill to the Senate and they can get it to meet reconciliation rules, I am 100% for that. The
All
plan, though, is if we can't get that to happen, is we bring these bills up where you got to get the 60-vote cloture in the Senate, and there were 10 Democratic senators that were in districts that President Trump won hugely, and he'll be in those districts asking those Democratic members why they want to allow Americans to buy insurance over state lines.
Yeah.
He'll be asking them, why are you requiring these essential benefits that limit people's choice in the plans that they buy? All of that stuff needs to be addressed. We just don't have the mechanism to address it through budget reconciliation.
All right. Congressman Bruce Westerman, I know you got to catch a flight, sir. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the program, sir, and have a safe flight.
Thank you, Paul.
All righty.
Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.